blessed. And we're so blessed. Councilman Stamp for his birthday, because this cake been lit and waiting on him for the longest.
I'm surprised the candles ain't melted.
And look, we got a whole cakes in here, so we're gonna wish you a happy 40th, brother.
Oh, I sure appreciate everybody for all the love and everything y'all did.
Oh, look at that.
Oh man,
Look at that. Look at that.
I've been waiting for a purple Respect Our Black Dollar shirt for so long.
Look, you better blow them candles off for that cake so you get it.
They've been burning for 30 minutes.
Well, you know, Miss Pippen was wonderful last night, but more importantly, the team we got here is, I feel, the best team on earth, because, you know, it wasn't just us out in the park. Our whole office was out in the park. Who can say that their whole office was sleeping out in the park with the homeless?
Crazy enough. That's the word.
You know, a lot of people give me a lot of credit for a lot of stuff, but the folks in this room really make it happen. You know, Karen Nelson, Stanley Wesley, Mac Epps, David, Shonda, everybody, the whole team of folks really put everything together for us to even produce how we produce. You know, we're just so grateful to God that we get the opportunities that we get. We can't explain it, you know.
Right.
How you explain it?
No.
You know, how you explain leaving a cornfield in Mississippi in 1995 and ending up going to work at the White House? How you explain it? But God. Right. How you explain going, being able to travel all over the world and work at embassies all over the world? God. I ain't the smartest person in the world. I never went to college or anything like that. We just operate on the favor we get. Right. You know, and people say, well, how in the world do you get to go work with the Trump transition team? God. Right. It wasn't not because I'm good. It's because we get opportunities and we don't really get focused on like people put our hope in man. You know, we just know that no matter who won this election, our issues still gonna be on the table. Right. Our issues are on the table with black presidents, white presidents, Republican presidents, Democratic presidents. That's our issues, and that's what we focus on is the issues. Right. And we want to make sure that the incoming transition team was focused on issues too. Right. Because, you know, we're Americans, and they're in charge of America. Right. And we got things we need to do to move forward. Before I was a Democrat, I was a black man in Mississippi, and black folks in Mississippi been catching hell under every president that's ever been elected. Right. And still catching hell today. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people were just asking a lot of questions. And I understand, because in the past you've had black management versus black leadership.
That wasn't free.
Right. It wasn't free.
Or distractions, black distractions.
Right, but when your leaders but when you have black leadership and that leadership is free, it can go and go into places and go in a man and come out of man. Right. You know, we haven't necessarily been producing leaders that can go in places of high regard and high influence and walk out with the same focus they walked in with, because we haven't produced free black leadership in the past. And that's what we're focused on here is freedom. And everything we do is about freedom. And it's about, an uncompromising and unwavering freedom. Mm-hmm. And one thing that really encouraged me about this trip was that when we went let me just give you an overview of how it all went and how it all got structured to be. About 2 years ago, the Joint Policy Center for Political and Economic Studies called 18 city council presidents of color to come to the White House to discuss issues of urban importance. All right. So from that meeting, we decided, okay, this group probably needs to stay together. Right. You know, it's the first time I'd ever been in a room with 18 black city council presidents from cities around the country. And so we had great discussions with the folks at the White House. They enjoyed the input that we brought and actually saw value in it. Right. And when it came time for transition, they were like, okay, we need to put together this same group with a few more additions so that we can have such rich and fruitful discussion. Right. You know, I know it sounds basic to everybody, but it's just basic. Like, let's call the folks on the ground who are really doing the work, who are black leaders versus black managers, because they even said that they're tired of token leadership. Right. They want to move to strategic partnerships.
It's hard not, and I'm not knocking tokenism. Because all things have their place. Right. But when you have the sacrifice of a Miss Pittman, right. You have the sacrifice of a T.R.M. Howard in Mound Bayou, you have the sacrifice of Medgar Evers, right. You have the martyrdom of Emmett Till, and you stand on the ancestral greatness that has come before you, then you have the opportunity to do something that perhaps they didn't have the opportunity to do to the same degree, which is what? Take elected office and operate with a sense and a mindset of freedom.
Right.
And we didn't always have those options to the same degree that we do today. And so it's wonderful to see people attempting to operate or exercise that freedom. Imagine being free and not knowing that you're free, or not knowing what you're supposed to do if you was free, right?
And then that happens realistically. We talk about that as it relates to the prison population,
right?
You know, you don't get so used to being encaged and told what to do. When you're out in the open, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to conduct, or you somebody giving you instructions. So as you talk about Ms. Pittman and those folks, it's our responsibility to produce that and champion well. And to see her look and appreciation as Councilman Stamps recognized her last night in the park, and for everybody to stop and give her attention.
That's right.
She's 82 years old. The work that you are doing.
82 years young.
Young.
She get around better than a lot of folks have her age.
Here's the thing about it. If she can come out there.
Yeah.
If our city councilman can sacrifice, come out there and do the work that he do, there's no excuse for others that make excuses. Oh, it's cold. Well, that's what you buy clothes for. You know, we come up with everything, but to talk about it. So we definitely appreciate that, Councilman Stamps, and we definitely want to hear more about this trip. What you can share with
20
us.
minutes ago, man. Let me kind of break it down a little further. So they offered the invitation. Karen, when did we get that invitation?
It's been
Probably about July.
it's been a few months, about
4
months.
So we got the invitation to return. And the way this series of meetings was structured, the first, in the morning we met at a coffee shop across the street from the White House about 7:30. When we went to the White House, our meeting was at 8. So we met with the outgoing administration to follow up on the issues we'd already been addressing, to ensure that our issues don't fall through the cracks. Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
That's right.
You know. So that's why we made sure that we were there and prepared. We had materials prepared for the Bernie Sanders transition, the Hillary Clinton transition, and the Donald Trump transition. Not saying that we thought that Donald Trump was the best candidate in the race. We just figured that he
it's best to be prepared.
Right, it's best to be prepared, and not that we supported Donald Trump. We didn't support Donald Trump at all in this whole process. We even rode around in a van all day election day.
We did.
And driving folks, getting folks to the polls, and passing out sample ballots. Those sample ballots included, Hillary Clinton name checked on the box as well. So it wasn't that we wasn't supportive. And I know people are in pain and in a degree of agony because of the election, but as a leader, I don't have a choice in not moving forward. I don't have the option of sitting at home crying or wondering why or trying to figure it out or any of that. I got to lead. I don't have the other people have that opportunity. Other people have that option in life. We wake up the next morning with the results of yesterday and say, well, what's the next step moving forward?
Go work.
That's what leaders do. Managers is what the black community and in large parts of the white community has produced in the last 30 years as managers.
It has a different effect on our community than it does on other communities.
Right. We've been allowing people to manage your pain and oppression versus lead you through it.
Right.
And so it was a good meeting. Some of these relationships were built 20 years ago as young folks running around DC. It's just that we've gotten older now. The folks in the White House were interns and such 20 years ago. Now they're in managerial level positions. So so remember, when you think about Washington D.C., it's not about Republican or Democrat in Washington D.C. It's about power, money, and relationships.
That's right.
Right.
Repeat that again.
It's about power, money, and relationships.
So what about the people who are to some degree hamstrung on the idea that we got a Crips and Blood reality as it relates to politics, as opposed to the other reality of that you have to team up and do things together in order to really survive and get things done.
That's compromising who you are.
Right. Well, some people do compromise, right? But the point is, you can't go in there thinking that you only gonna be blue or only gonna be red, and that's just the way it's gonna be. And if people that go to jail know that the Blood and Crip thing plays itself out in that environment, and the same thing is true in D.C. The Democrat and Republican thing play itself out because you got to bring home something deliverable to your community.
Right. Yeah, because the Democratic Republican thing is how they divide folks and control them around the nation. And I'm just gonna be honest with you. That's how they divide folks. Okay, you're conservative, you're liberal, you're this, you're that. Right. That's how they divide and move the masses to action. Right, they rally them to action based on their belief system.
Give them a title.
Right, and they give them these different labels and stuff. But that's how DC works: power, money, and relationships. Mm-hmm. And the relationships that I've built in DC, like I said, go back 20 years. Being a young Marine flying around in Marine One and
with no hair on your face.
Right, with no hair on your face.
And all the hair on his head.
And they're on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
And the folks who are not in the aisle. There's a large contingency in DC who are now staff positions all over. And the main goal here is that I know that every time a president changes over, there's 6,000 jobs they're going to get filled.
Right.
So what I'm focusing on is getting more of our young folks prepared to navigate into those areas, and if I can get a couple hundred folks from Jackson to work in the Department of Justice, Department of Education, Department of Commerce, Department of Transportation, in the Census Bureau. If I can get some folks in position, because we can't go back. Right now, today, more, and there's nothing against this community when I say this, more Hispanics work in the federal government than black folks. Now, black folks broke this glass ceiling 30 years ago, right? And now we've allowed other groups to come in,
capitalize off of our blood and sacrifice.
Exactly. So we have to get back and get our folks employed into these positions. I mean, I'm a product of the federal government system. My father worked 40 years for the Department of Agriculture. My mother 30 years at the post office. Federal government had great jobs, and I'm not going to sit here and cry because Hillary Clinton lost an election and not move and try to get some of my folks some of these jobs. As bad as we need jobs, they don't necessarily work for. They don't necessarily work for Donald Trump. They work for the federal government, what department they work in.
Yeah,
so that's my goal.
One thing I love about Trump being elected, and I can say this, and I'm going to repeat it. I love Trump being elected because it forces people to move out of a state of denial, where they're going to play these games with us about Democrat and Republican, about it can only be this way or that way. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, if you don't come together for the direct purpose and interest of supporting your constituency and your community, then ain't nothing gonna happen for you. We proved that last night once again with the sleep out on the local level. The pastor was out there. He know about that with his own local church. And if you're a politician and you can't bring home something for your constituency and for your people, you can't stand up and champion issues like when the family members get hurt right in front of their own homes. And you can't be out there for those that are left out and lost out and don't have nothing to look for except a little bit of a hand out to get a hand up, then you can forget it. We're past the point where we can just blame other people and point a finger at someone else and get our problem solved at the same time. We're past that point. And so we don't need to play those games. We're not children. I ain't waiting for Santa Claus. I'm a grown man. Yes, I'm a grown man. And I ain't writing somebody else's name on my present.
That's right.
And I'm giving away to somebody else.
That's right.
So,
all right.
So let me finish this up.
I apologize. Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah, DB's all out in here.
Take a drink.
No, you're right. I need it.
So the next portion of the day, so we met from about 8 to about 10:30 with the outgoing administration. Then we went over to George Washington University Law School, and we debriefed on that first meeting. But we also prepared finished our preparation for our presentation to the incoming administration. So we met for about 2 or 3 hours, just making sure we had everything prepared the way we wanted to prepare, who was going to say what, because these are the leaders of 20 black organizations around the country. You had the National Black Caucus of state elected officials. I was representing the National Black Caucus of local elected officials. You had some Hispanic organizations there as well, the head of NALEO. You had the head of the Hispanic local elected official president. You had, so it was about 20 of them.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, it's a room full of leaders of institutions, not just regular folks. It's people who are in charge of most folks in Mississippi didn't know that I was the president of the National Black Caucus of local elected officials for the whole country.
That's because you don't brag enough.
We don't brag enough for them. That's the problem.
That's our fault.
All
right, so these were just leaders of institutions of leadership. And so what I found really humbling to me is that we go over to the Republican headquarters, and I've been there before, but this time they take you down to the basement.
Oh Lord!
And they got this big conference room down in the basement. So we sit down there, and they come in, and Elroy Saylor, who is the senior advisor for Rents Priebus, comes in. Keiko James, she used to work in the office of where she worked, Office of Personnel Management, and she's now normally they don't put us in charge of guns and money in DC. That's the normal. But now you got a sister who, rightfully so, smart as a whip, highly intelligent. She's in charge of the transition of budget, and that was my focus because, regardless of what the campaign rhetoric was and all those types of things, what they put on that first budget,
that's right,
is the focus of America.
That's right.
You are what you pay for and where you spend your money.
That's right.
And so to put a sister in charge of budget means that you are, you're moving down the road further than some previous transition teams. And it was a closed door meeting, no media allowed, just so folks can talk honestly and frankly. And they opened the meeting up, and I can't necessarily, I don't want to break the confidentiality that we have.
But don't just highlight, we can't even get that done with the National Baptist Convention.
There you go.
You don't start, you can open that box.
You don't step out of that one.
Yeah, you can open that box, don't get
it. But they opened the meeting up, and they were just able to talk honestly. And they were just able to say, you know what, we got a country to lead now. We got things to do, and we got a government to move forward, and we have to be the example for the world. And that's why I want to my message to folks is, don't really allow for the news pundits and those people, because they all told you Hillary Clinton was going to win.
Right.
So I really wouldn't believe any of these people who just talk about their analysis of the state of affairs. Obviously, they are disconnected from the state of affairs anyway. If everybody, all these people.
That's right.
Anybody who told you, they said, I just know it hands down.
Right.
They just know.
7% get lead.
Yeah. Listen to folks who are deeply engaged here, and they may not get the microphone enough. So we need to open some avenues for that, Karen. We need to make sure that happens. But as we went through the meeting, they really stressed on, we need to, make right the promise the president made during the campaign when he talked about, I'm going to do this for the Black and African American urban cities. We're gonna hold them to task on that one, and we're gonna make them understand that there's power in what you say as a president. You can't be more just talking. And just say things as it comes to your mind. You actually get held to task as a president based on what you say, and that's why you've seen some of the talk from the president-elect toned down a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And some of the positions, because it's got real now.
Yeah.
Right.
No more facade.
There's implications to it now.
Yeah.
You are holding the high office. So now I'm gonna spend the last 5 minutes talking about this alt-right group.
Oh well, one of my favorite things that has come about.
Right. So you got a few groups of folks in America. You got black folks, you got Democrats, you got Republicans, the conservative, normal people that we deal with. Just the regular, everyday conservative Republican folks. And now you have the emergence. It's always been there.
Wait, hold on now. What are they conserving? They don't conserve the forest. No, they don't conserve the environment. What are they conserving?
They're conserving, what they want to conserve. But now you have the emergence of this alt-right group. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, but I'm going to finish up by saying the meeting was very fruitful. It's a continuation of a series of meetings, and we'll be going back and forth. But our main goal is we got black professionals all around this city and state who can fill these positions. We've shown capable of filling these positions before. Of the 6,000 jobs that will be maneuvered through in the next 90 to 180 days. I got a list of 400 jobs that black folks must have, that other minority groups want to have. And that's what I'm focused on. It's because we got positions in, you don't want someone of a different mindset and ideology working in, like, you know, in the Department of Justice when it comes to voting rights. You want some of your folks in those positions. You want some of your folks in charge of minority outreach, so they can stay, so the black folks can stay engaged in these issues. So that was vitally important for me in going there, and the tone and tenor that they spoke about was encouraging, because they know, you know, these folks like Elroy Saylor, he's from Detroit. He's a hardworking brother, and he understands the plight of urban America. And now it's time to not beat each other up, but to continue to move forward, because it's getting real in the streets. Even in D.C., you think it's real in Mississippi? It is a all-out slugfest in D.C. right now.
It's a war zone on the street, and like you said, slugfest in the higher offices now.
That's right. Yeah, people are trying to get themselves to the front of the table, because they understand that we're at a very critical point in American history. And if we don't respond properly, if the good white folks and good black folks don't stand up now to save this nation will crumble and die. This is where we are. And we got to get beyond these lower level differences and decide, do we want to save this country? Because we're not going anywhere. Is anybody in the listening audience going to pack up and move to Africa, Istanbul, Puerto Rico, England? So once you commit to the fact or if we had the resources, you might, right?
Yeah. Puerto Rico's still in America. It's a territory.
Right. But my point is, if you understand that you're not packing up and going anywhere, to stay. Right. You're not going to pack up and go anywhere and move forever. You realize that you're going to be here in America. Right. So since we're committed to the fact that we're going to be here, either we're going to heal ourselves as a nation, or we're going to die as fools.
It is.
That's just where we are. We're going to sit here and eat each other alive. Mm-hmm. Because the last point I'll make about this alt-right group that's emerging, and for those of you who don't know about the alt-right movement, that's a culmination of white nationalist organizations and supporters from around the world who onset the whole Brexit thing in Europe, where they wanted to leave the European Union. They also were a big hand in supporting President-elect Trump's campaign, the energy around the country. They're people that they don't get polled. No. The poll don't call their house number to see what they feel like or what their energy is, to even articulate it back to the people. But this group they're a white nationalist organization, and I want you to Google them, take them out. They're a loosely connected group. They're not connected by structure; they're connected by ideology.
How you spell that alt-right?
It's ALT-R.
ALT-R. Right. Alt-right.
Yeah, right. So this group is a very powerful force around this country, and I just want folks to understand this clearly: is that if the good folks of both colors and races and political persuasions in this country do not come together, and I've been saying it softly for the last couple of months, when I've been saying that 20% of the Democratic Party and 20% of the Republican Party need to be replaced and removed because they're just crazy. Right. This group is a part of the Democratic Party too now. Right. They're just in different tones.
This is like Agent Smith in the Matrix.
Right.
They're just spreading a cloud over everything of destructiveness.
Yeah, these folks are part of, most of every major organization. They just know their roles and operate. That's right. And maneuver. So don't think that this is just a Republican issue. It's called the alt-right because it's part of the folks that's in the Democratic Party. It's part of it too.
That's right.
People have been putting hoods on and taking them off and putting ties on when they come to work for 100 years. So don't act like it don't exist. Yes, sir. So as folks in America, we have to put the America that we want first. Now, some people look at everything that we tout as a gain and look at it as a loss. When we say, just like our airport here, when we say we've increased the minority participation at the airport for contracting to 30%, that's a loss for them. That's a failure.
Even if the business has increased by 300%.
Right. Right. So everything that we count as a gain, when we say we got, this many black elected officials, they look at it and say, well, we should have this many white elected officials. Right. Right. So we have to, as we celebrate our wins, realize that every time we celebrate something, they basically have a loss
in their minds.
In their minds. So we must stay together. We're going to be continually engaged in this issue and keeping you informed. Continue to be tuned in on Facebook and those things. We'll be doing some extended Facebook Live videos on Monday. And I want everybody to write this down. Monday at 10 o'clock, we'll be having a complete debriefing about the entire trip to D.C., what it was all about and all that in the chambers. You can come, and the press will be there. You can ask your questions. And we'll go to what time? 12?
10.
Well, 10 to 12?
10.
You're not afraid of them asking random questions, sir?
Nah, I don't care.
Oh, wow.
Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. Hey, caller, you on there?
Yes, you can't hear me call his wife.
What's that?
Can't hear me call his wife.
Okay. So, we got 3 minutes left to go on the show. We had a dynamic sister walk in, and she's running for re-election for election commissioner over in District 2. I'm going to give her some minute to say her piece.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity that you're giving me to say hello. But you know what, Dekeither? Hello. I am Bobby McClure Gray.
That's right.
I am a candidate for election commissioner in District 2. I would like to ask the voters to go back to the polls on November 29th. There is a runoff. And I want you to know I had 49.5% of the vote, and I would like to add 0.5%.
0.5%. Plus what?
Plus 1. So I would like to ask all my supporters and those who voted for me to please go back on the 29th. And I really was not even going to get into that. I came because it's your birthday, and I wanted to say happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you, dear. I appreciate it.
But I appreciate the opportunity that you did give me to express myself to your audience. And you know, they say a lot of times things is about timing. So the show is just about up, and I've been watching that cake over there. So I'm into the timing for the final celebration.
And everybody, we got, we're going to talk about Saturday.
Yeah, talk about Saturday. Because he ain't going to tell you guys, but Councilman Stamps will be celebrating his 40th birthday at Next Level Experience in the Metro Center Mall on the back side of the mall. And what used to be the Willa Watson's restaurant is now called Emmy's. And we got live music by Mr. Henry Rhodes. And also his dad will be celebrating his birthday, Mr. Delmer Stamps, who's responsible for making what we see in his chair. He's going to be celebrating his birthday also. So if you come out, come support a black-owned business, come support proven leadership, but understand that you have to pay for your own food and drinks. There's nothing on the house.
And as always, everyone, 7 o'clock.
7 p.m. 7 p.m.
And as always, everyone, all white folks aren't bad, all black folks aren't good. You got to sit back and discern, use a little discernment to figure out who you're going to deal with to rebuild your village and community. And never let anybody put you in a position where you don't love your own people. Because when you don't love your own people, you're part of the very oppression we're trying to lift ourselves out of. I love y'all, Jackson. Love y'all, Mississippi. See y'all next